Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of Let's Get Growing, a Vine Dental podcast. My name is Colleen Huff. I am the dental insurance coach. A little background about me if you haven't heard about me. I've been in the dental field now for 30 years. Of that time, I spent a little bit of time at an insurance company working at MetLife on the phones 30 years ago. And after a move, which I'll talk about in a little bit, I ended up in New Jersey and in dental practices. Over the years, I spent time doing almost every aspect there was except for hygiene and being the dentist, and managed and spent time in a variety of offices. And in 2021, I decided to take the skills that I had and some of the education I've been doing and full-time go to being an educator. And so that's what I now do. I coach and teach around the country. I do seminars in person and through Zoom. I do come into practices, help them clean up that revenue cycle and get their insurance processes in order, as well as other various parts of what happens. In July of 2024, I became a published author with my first book called A Mouthful of Insurance. And so I'm grateful to be here, and I guess we can get started. So the first question I was asked is, what inspired you to pursue a career in dentistry, and what keeps you passionate about it today? And so my journey into dentistry is a little different than a lot of people that are doing what I do now. I actually grew up around dentistry. My father was a rep for Great Lakes Orthodontics when I was a kid. He actually helped do a lot of the inventions that put Great Lakes Orthodontics on the map. And so I grew up around that kind of industry and seeing my dad go off to conferences that I'm now going to. But that was not my career path initially. Moved to an area of New York State where there was not a whole lot of jobs, and ended up in dentistry at a call center for MetLife 30 some years ago, and loved it. Loved my job. Spent 6 months in training, learned all these codes, had all this information. I was getting paid to talk, which, if you ask my husband, was a great thing. And then we had to move, and we moved to New Jersey, where I couldn't go back to an insurance company, but I had all this dental information in my head. And so from there, I started in the dental practices and kind of fell in love with it. I worked front desk, I did bookkeeping, I did every other part there was to it. And over the years, after I moved back to where I was originally from, which is Buffalo, New York, and I took on managing because I thought I knew it all. And during my time managing any other parts that I did, insurance was still my passion. It's what I enjoyed the most. And so I started developing some courses and helping to consult with some offices. And in 2021, I stepped out fully from a dental practice. And that's when I started going around the country, either speaking and teaching on this, or taking the newbies and teaching them what to do, or taking offices and revamping it. How I stay passionate is continuing to do what I love. I love teaching someone who's brand new to dental insurance how to do it. And maybe that's because I sat in a classroom and learned it that way. But that's, I think, the key to staying passionate in your field is to find what part of that you enjoy. I have other friends that love to write SOPs, and they can do that all day long if they want, or love to do certain other parts of the dental practice. For me, it's the insurance, it's the revenue cycle, it's helping that patient from beginning to end. And so that's how I stay passionate in what I'm doing. I was asked if I could share a memorable office success story that showcases the impact of modern dental technologies on dental care. This is a hard question because there's been so much in the last few years that has come out in dentistry, but I wanted to focus on a story for me at the very last practice that I worked at. Our office had been one of the first to implement digital x-rays. And so by the time I worked with her, starting in the office in 2012, it was an older machine. And so she decided it was time to upgrade, and we upgraded the machine so it was clearer, crisper, more detailed digital x-rays, and took a Panorex on a patient the one day. And, it could be that the other x-ray machine would have found it, but there was a slight shadow on the patient's jawbone. My boss, being who she was, sent the patient to get it biopsied just to be safe. Probably was nothing, had seen this 1,000,001 times, and it was just a shadow on the x-ray, but he went, he was biopsied, and it was cancerous. But because we caught it so early, this gentleman who is literally reaching his retirement age, had always taken good care of himself. All it was one procedure. There was cancer was contained, it was caught early enough. And so feeling that the newer technology can help us with that kind of level of catching something is amazing to me. And that's what I love to see, how as the technology grows and how it affects the patient care in a very positive way. So for me, that's probably the most memorable case. Another one that comes to mind, and this isn't necessarily patient care, but this is overall flow of the office, is I took a practice from paper charts. Yes, they were still on paper charts, to digital charting with a brand new software, and saw an office just streamline and become so much more efficient because of the newer technology, getting away from the old paper charts, getting away from some of that heavier, more, taking more time to do things. And so everything went more smoothly. So technology, we need to embrace it. In my opinion, what emerging dental technology or trends excite me the most for the future of dentistry, and why? It's going to sound kind of probably what you expect somebody to say, but the AI technology is just amazing to me. What it is doing in the industry for the streamline of claims alone is just awesome. Anyone who works with Vine and Pearl knows that you can integrate the two together. And so your administrative team doesn't have to find the x-rays anymore. That AI helping the office get more things paid because it's identifying or is showing it in a clearer way to the dentists that are working as consultants who aren't in the patient's mouth. And so I think that the excitement from AI and how it's going to help dentistry in the long run, we think of it as, it's going to be this big scary thing on the other end, turning things down. But I think we're going to see the opposite. Knowing from the insurance companies, they're going to utilize it, and it's going to take some time. We have to be patient. I know there's glitches happening with it now, but in the long run, that doctor who every time he sends in for a crown, it gets approved because he's only doing crowns that are necessary, will stop having to go to a consultant, and it'll strictly streamline and pay. That's going to help. So overall, I think that the AI part of it is going to help make our jobs easier, give us more time for patient care, more time to assist the patients in their dental health, make sure we're getting things paid. Doctors won't be writing things off. Patients won't necessarily have to pay for things that maybe in the past they would have. And so I think that AI portion of it, the pearls, the overjets, that part of it is amazing, but also what it's doing for the insurance industry and being able to utilize it and read some of that. And I know there's a lot of other industry things that are coming out. There's companies out there that are starting to use it to call insurance companies. AI will be utilized in a lot of different areas for all of the companies that we work with. And so I think we need to embrace it as exciting, and also realize how it's going to help the patients overall in what it's doing for them. Another question I was asked was, how do you approach educating and empowering your offices to take control of their continued knowledge in the dental field? And this one can be tough depending on who you're talking to. The biggest thing is the doctors, and if your doctors are listening to this, doctors, please, I'm not trying to pick on you, but you need to be willing to continue to pay for CE and continuing ed for all of your team members, not just your hygienists, not just your assistants, not just yourself. Your administrative team members need it also. And so finding those conventions that make everybody excited, finding that CE that they're going to want to attend is imperative, and helping them. So encouraging the team members to find where do they want to go. I had one office that they used to pick every 3 years. The doctor let the assistants and the hygienists and the administrative team do a vote, pick a conference, and he paid for everybody to go. And I would say that sometimes they looked for the ones that were maybe in Hawaii or something like that, which is a great way to keep them, excited about going. But it doesn't have to be that exact one, but finding what they're doing. Finding those webinars like Vine does. I do webinars for them. Finding those webinars that can help keep you up to date on your part of it. But we have to do it for ourselves. So if you feel like your office isn't giving you what you need, don't rely on your doctor to come to you and say, do you want to go to this? I recommend you search for who you want to go to see. Who do you pay attention to? Who do you feel is going to give you something that you can give back to that practice? Those webinars, the in-person. Is it a podcast? Is it something that you want to listen to every week or every 2 weeks? And ask the doctor, is there a way that you can take some time on if it's something that's going to benefit the practice? But you also have to give them the why and how. Every time I go to ADOM, the American Association of Dental Office Managers, I would come back and I would do a meeting with my doctor 2 weeks after I was there. It gave me time to run through my notes, and I would explain to her and show her what I learned and how it's going to impact the practice. What things may work, what things won't. Conferences are a great way for you to see what's the newest technology that's coming into the practices, and making sure that you find what works for you. What I would say to be very leery of is strictly paying attention to those on social media, unless you know who they are. There's a lot of voices out there. There's a lot of people that consider themselves experts. And just because you've been doing something for a certain number of years doesn't make you an expert on that. I want to know the backup to that. Do you continue to educate yourself? Where is your information coming from? So I would be leery of some of the social media unless you know that the person, what are their qualifications? Research who they are before you listen to them. But we have to take control. We can't just assume our doctors are going to come up with it. And admin, especially when I first started in this field, there really wasn't a whole lot for us. I would go to the local conference, and all I really did was go what I call dental trick-or-treating and try to come up with something new to buy the office. There weren't courses for me. There's now courses for our administrative team. So find out what makes you excited. What do you want to hear more on? What do you want to make sure you're up to date? You could go into one of these conferences. You could sit in on one of my seminars and walk out and go, I knew everything. Great. You knew it all. That's okay too. So you may find that, that you have to look for more in depth or higher level, but keeping yourself excited about it is the biggest part. And by continuing to educate, Google alerts to help you find out what's coming up in your area is another great way to do it. And lastly, I was asked if I could give one piece of advice to fellow dentists or dental professionals to grow the practice. What would it be? And I'd say to start with, you have to stay curious. You have to allow yourself to continue to learn. And that means allowing yourself to be open to new ideas. Your practice can become very stagnant. We have a tendency in dentistry, dentists, front desk assistants, hygiene, we get into habits and we get into almost a rut, and it's comfortable and we want to stay there. And so there may be new technology and we're not willing to look at it. So we have to grow as a person and as a practice. You have to continue to look at what's out there. You have to be willing to try something new. But you also have to make sure that it's for you. I worked for one gentleman that jumped on every bandwagon that came around. Well, our heads were spinning every 6 months. That's not going to help a practice grow either. So be very decisive in your decisions and make sure that you as a practice, it's going to fit, because you could have a best friend that has a practice, 5 miles away that loves, software XYZ, but you look at it, you don't. You have to make sure you research. We're not all cookie cutters. Every practice is different. On the surface, you can look exactly the same. But when you dig into who you are and your patient base and your team members and the people working for you, it's all very different. So your growth may be different than someone down the street who appears to be exactly the same. So I would say be curious, make sure that you allow yourself to continue to learn, and be open, but research what's going to work for you. So again, I'm Colleen Huff, dental insurance coach. If you check out my website, it's a very difficult one to remember. It's www.colleenhuff.com. I do have some insurance courses up there. Watch the Vine webinars. I do tend to do at least hopefully one a year with them. And look for me around the country. I'm maybe in your neck of the woods at some point. Thank you.